What was the time someone assumed something about you and was completely wrong? I was at a dinner party and people kept offering me drinks that I continued to decline. Eventually, one woman's eyes lit up as she looked between me and my husband and then asked, "Oh my gosh, are you pregnant?" Everyone around us got quiet and I laughed and said, "No, I have epilepsy." I was handed no more glasses of wine after that. It's such an odd thing to assume. I take 2 hours of sick leave every other week for a therapist. Once I was on the phone with my manager around a bunch of coworkers when I told my manager I couldn't make a meeting because of my regular doctor's appointments. After I hung up, one of my coworkers eagerly pipes up, "Ooh, regular doctor's appointment, huh? Does that mean we can expect a pearly sweet cake soon?" I had to awkwardly mumble that, "No, I just gotta go to a therapist." Quiet, awkward stares. Had a friend I was crushing on that I felt liked me too. We were talking online one day, and he had to go to work. He says, "I'll be back later," and then get to spend more time with my favorite Asian. I asked, "Who's that?" For as long as I knew him, he thought I was Asian. Once he found out I wasn't, he ghosted me. Just to say, I'm Hispanic American, lol. What the fuck? Did he ghost you? Reminds me of a Seinfeld episode, where Elaine and this guy dated because he thought she was Mexican, and she thought he was something else too. They didn't want to date when they realized they weren't. Bit of context for this one. I'm a dude, and for my last 2 years of high school, I attended an all-girls school. In my region, after your 5 years of high school is up, you can do 2 extra years, called sixth form, in order to take the CAPE, Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Exam. So the school would take in one boy a year for the sixth form. I was the second boy they ever took. So naturally, some weird rumors were spread about me. One day, while I went to IT lab to grab something, a teacher pulled me aside. I was a bit worried because I hadn't done anything. What follows is a very uncomfortable conversation where I learned there's a rumor that I said I don't like black girls. I tell her that I've never said that, and that was pretty much the end of that conversation. One of the weirdest conversations I've ever had. Only barely related. You might enjoy Dairy Girls on Netflix. Totally different context, but one of the characters is a dude who is forced to go to an all-girls school because he is an English Catholic living in Northern Ireland in the 90s. I started at a new school my junior year. For starters, I look like a hippie. I have very long wavy hair and dress pretty boyish. Everyone, including the school administrator/nuns, assumed I was a drug dealer of sorts. I had never even seen weed, or any drug at that point. I got randomly chosen for our school's monthly drug test several months in a row, and periodically thereafter, people constantly asked me for hookups or where to find hookups. On the plus side, the other hippie types gravitated and became some lifelong friends of mine, though their proximity to me was still suspicious at the time. My ex-wife was convinced I had another family in another state, simply because she heard a kid's voice in the background when I was traveling for work and sitting in a restaurant once. During our divorce depositions, I once spent a full day being questioned, and half the questions were slightly different wordings of, "So you have another family, child, spouse, kid, dependent, etc." Obviously, other people don't have children where you can hear them. Children are kept in little boxes in the home until they are 18 years of age. Where else would you hear someone else's child? Speaking of weird divorce shit, my dad's business partner's ex-wife was convinced that he and my dad had millions and millions of dollars hidden in offshore accounts. She hired a forensic accountant to look through everything. My dad said she'd hope she'd find something so he could have these millions she thinks he already has. Around the holidays, my students often wish me Happy Hanukkah. The exchange usually follows this pattern. Student: "Happy Hanukkah, professor." Me: Thanks. Happy Hanukkah." Student: "Oh, I'm not Jewish." Me: "Neither am I. But thanks for the sentiment. Happy holidays." I'm a teacher in a Brooklyn school, so a lot of my students simply assume I'm Jewish. One time, in Japan, I asked an old lady for directions in Japanese. I was still a beginner, but I tried my best to speak in their language rather than asking stuff in English. So this lady assumed I spoke very good Japanese and started chatting. I tried to tell her I couldn't understand, and everyone else on the bus was trying to hide their laughter. The conversation went on for 10 minutes, and I still have no idea what she was saying. She was very nice though. Oh, I feel you on that one. When I arrived in Japan for my semester abroad and went to my estate agency that were going to show me to my flat, the head guy was apparently so impressed by my initial greeting words that he saw fit to machine gun through the particulars of explaining my contract at native speed. In retrospect, I really should have swallowed my pride and asked to switch to English at that point. They could have made me sign all kinds of shady stuff if they had wanted to. I'm 26, almost 27, and female. I'm 4'11", and have resting nice face. People either baby me or are awful to me because they think I'm a teenager. People constantly ask me what grade I'm going into. I get into places for free sometimes or at kids' price, especially if I'm with my family and my nieces and nephews are present. It's a blessing and a curse, but people assume a lot about me. I like it. I'm often underestimated. Before my high school prom, I went to get my hair done. Pretty sure my hairdresser assumed I couldn't speak Spanish because I was white, but I was fluent. They spent my whole appointment worrying aloud about how my hair was so straight, and there was no way it would stay curled all night. They were right, it's really straight. Through the appointment, I was waiting a few minutes after they spent some time worrying about it and say something like, "I know my hair is really straight, and I don't expect it to stay perfect. This is great." I didn't want them to be stressed about it, and I didn't want to make them uncomfortable if they realized I could understand everything they were saying. I live in a very Hispanic/Latino area, and one woman heard me speak English and yelled at me for not speaking Spanish, calling me a traitor to my ancestors and bringing shame to my past family history in Mexico and Puerto Rico. Imagine her surprise when I told her I was Arabian and Middle Eastern. Still felt guilty for not knowing Spanish for some reason. Lameo. Ooh, I've had this experience too. Well, same but different. I'm Hispanic, but I'm often confused for Indian. I've been yelled at by Indian men for not speaking or understanding Hindi, and have been told that my parents should have raised me better. I started wearing gold hoop earrings to make myself look more Latina, and I'm no longer yelled at by Indian men. Yo! A teacher in 8th grade told me a similar story. She had a cousin who lived in the US, and they're from Moroccan descent. One day, a teacher asked her what Latin American country she was from, and she told her she was actually Moroccan. The teacher completely lost her shit and started yelling at her that she shouldn't be ashamed to be Latina, and that she should instead be ashamed of pretending to be something else just to fit in. I sound like a major nerd, and often talk to work contacts for months over the phone before meeting them in person. I've lost count of the number of times someone has told me they thought I had glasses, but my vision is perfect. I have 20/15 vision. I'm currently 6'2", am muscular, and I am a massive nerd. I've been asked to join the football team. I was pressured into playing basketball last year, but I just hate all ball sports. The only athletic thing I do is run track. A psychiatrist from the emergencies assumed I had a lot of sex because I told her that a few months before, things happened with one of my roommates when we were both drunk, but I didn't know how far things went. I went over the edge because of the silent treatment he gave me afterwards, underlying issues I had about sexuality, and a mild fear of unwanted pregnancy. I also told her that I occasionally partook in binge drinking at the time because it was true, which might have added to her bad opinion of me. She called my mom, she was my emergency contact, told her everything, and basically slut-shamed me on the phone, which I assume is super unprofessional, if not downright illegal. I thought what you said to a psychiatrist was private. I was possibly a 23-year-old virgin at the time, since I still don't know what happened that night. At least the pregnancy scare was unfounded. People assumed in high school I was eating nothing but junk because I was rapidly gaining weight while my twin wasn't. In truth, I was starving myself because I couldn't figure out why I was gaining weight. It wasn't until my 20s I found out I had a tumor on my thyroid, and that's what caused the weight gain. My mother-in-law assumed I couldn't cook, even though I've been cooking my entire life and enjoy doing it. She always insisted that we go out to eat when they visited, to the extent that she would ruin our family plans because she was that adamant about not eating at our house. Until one time, after about 3 years of being together, my husband refused to eat out and insisted that I cook. After eating, she turned to my husband in surprise and said, "Wow, this is really good. I didn't know she could cook like this." My husband looked her dead in the eye and said, "That's because you never gave her a chance, and she's a better cook than you." I have a high voice, as well as a high vocal range, but people assume I'm a woman on the phone. It's hilarious when the scam callers say, "Ma'am, you have a virus on your computer," and I lower my octave and proceed to scream monkey noises for a minute and a half until they hang up. People look at me and think I'm either a marijuana enthusiast or addicted to something. The truth is, I've never done anything. I guess I just dress like a skater, and for a lot of my life operating on at most 5 hours of sleep. I know a guy like that. He doesn't even dress in any remarkable way. He just has one of those faces and talks slowly and quietly. Many people think he is high all the time, when he really isn't. That sounds annoying as hell. I know some teachers used to treat him differently because of it. People think I'm Hispanic. This has happened a few times. Sometimes coming as a direct question, and sometimes as people speaking Spanish to me as if I will understand. I don't. I have no idea why, although I am mixed race. White/Nez Perce. Mostly white. I look white as hell. I'm shorter than average for a guy, so maybe that is part of it, but it's weird. A lot of people think I'm 18 or 19 and treat me like a kid. I'm almost 26. It happens at work a lot, and it can be annoying. Also, this is more recent, but I just got a new car, and people always ask if my parents bought it for me. Understandable, but no, I worked hard for it. Anytime someone assumes I don't speak Spanish because I'm a redheaded güero, I understand everything you're saying about me, Ruben. I learned from a Panamanian ex-boyfriend that red hair is actually quite common in Hispanic people, which I found surprising. He had a redheaded cousin who I met, and when my ex grew his beard out, it was a light auburn color. People in high school spread rumors I always have sex. I'll be the first to say that nothing could have been further from the truth, and many girls couldn't even stand me. I have no idea where the rumors came from or how they started. Some of them even make their way to the local civic theater and other high schools. I actually had a couple instances where someone would tell me, fake name used as an example, "Sam Holtman from South High said you were having sex with blah blah blah." And I had never met the people mentioned, or even know anyone from the other school. It happened my last 2 years of high school, and it was very surreal. It followed me to my sophomore year of college, but it happened significantly less often. People in high school assumed I was gay based on, I'm not actually even sure. And it wasn't even like them being curious. They straight up assigned that sexuality to me and refused to believe otherwise. The things they used as proof were some of the biggest stretches I've ever heard. One time, they took my nails and were like, "You paint your nails? You're clearly gay." My nails weren't even painted. It just didn't look like I clawed my way out of a hole with my bare hands. I'm sure some of them still think I'm gay years later. The reality of the situation is that I just don't talk about the women I'm interested in openly. It doesn't seem like that should be anyone's business except for mine, and the woman in question. I'm a Ghanaian, and went to boarding school in the UK. Had a story floating around about killing a crocodile with a spear as a rite of passage, and that my father was a corrupt politician who bought me a Bentley. Wish the second one was true, lol. That I didn't want to have children or a family. I live a pretty busy life, both in social and work settings, which means I got very little time off. So a few friends of mine had apparently all been assuming I never planned to settle down. The thing is that half the reason I'm living that kind of life is because I'm single, and I prefer keeping busy, as I like to have some sort of purpose in what I do. if it's either doing social activities with friends or working on something. When I was in a relationship a few years ago, I was way less busy, but the moment it ended, I sort of went overboard with keeping busy as a coping mechanism, and right now, I kind of enjoy it. I tried slowing down, but it just made me depressed. I lost all my hair and eyebrows during chemo, and someone I hadn't seen in a while asked me when I was getting my Make-A-Wish, thinking I had shaved for the hell of it. They had no idea I actually had cancer. People seem to always want to talk about kneeling for the flag and other stuff because, as a Marine, they assume it pisses me off. Always seem baffled by my response. I served because of my belief in their right to do that. Same here. I'm always getting tagged into stupid ass arguments in Facebook over this. I always manage to piss somebody off when I ask some of these so-called die-hard patriots if they ever served. I always get excuses on why they didn't, or they try to take credit for other military services. A lot are quick to call for a war they won't serve in, and who didn't serve when they could. People assume that I am unemployed, poor, and therefore uneducated because I always wear the same clothes, drive a small car, and am not very talkative. When I need clothes, I buy the same piece 4 or 5 times. I don't feel like bothering about what to wear. My car is exactly as big as necessary. Why should I pay for more? I have 2 different academic degrees and am a freelancer, working mostly from home. My 7th grade class was visiting a court for educational purposes. I was a tall person with glasses, talking with the teachers when somebody who works there walks up to me to inform me that the student can enter the courtroom and go over some rules with the people in charge of the class. The thing is, I was one of the students and not one of the teachers. He looked pretty embarrassed to have mistaken a teenager for an adult. As a kid, around 10 to 15, people were so convinced I was some random demon child that hated everybody, when in reality, I was just depressed and didn't trust people enough to believe they had my best interest at heart. So I just didn't speak. Lol. People assume when they first meet me that I can't get loud and angry or tell raunchy jokes because I'm quiet and usually really kind and polite. My friends group thinks they corrupted me, but really, it's just that it took me a while to stop being shy around them with my raunchy jokes and my dirty mouth. Because I am African American, people assume my tastes are generally rap music, but I actually am leaning towards punk, towards old rock, bubblegum pop, and then some rap music. Not all, kinda just like an R&B, if that's alright with y'all. Oh yeah, don't expect me to be a real anime guy. But yeah, that's a thing. My girlfriend says my demeanor is the main reason why no one sees me as the nerdy black guy anymore, which is interesting. Some people are surprised when I tell them I listen to EDM, particularly house. Why so surprised? Because I'm black? Because I'm in my 30s? This music has been around since most people on here were even born. Plus, house music was pioneered by black DJs and producers in Chicago as an offshoot of disco. If anything, you'd think it'd be more popular among the black community. I was about 21, never drank/smoked, was highly against it at the time. My stepbrother and his friends were about 17. They got caught smoking and all their parents blamed me because they apparently heard rumors I was a druggie. It was the weirdest thing, all the parents evil-eyeing me and whatnot, when I was the good one. I try to come across as very friendly, and I get the flirty accusations enough that it's ridiculous. The worst was a girl who clearly had some jealousy issues anyways, but just because I'm nicer to your boyfriend, that don't mean I want to fuck him. When I was 18/19, I worked in fast food while getting my degree in psychology. I always had customers make smart-ass remarks about me when they were angry, and it was usually along the lines of saying I'm uneducated, a high school dropout, etc. One day, there was a specific incident that happened where a customer got mad at me about his order being wrong. He started yelling at me and saying I needed to go back to school if I couldn't get a simple order right. I was on the verge of tears when out of nowhere, one of my high school teachers walked up who was there with his family for lunch. He congratulated me on being accepted into college and heard I was working hard. The guy yelling at me actually apologized after my teacher walked away. and told me he's just used to dealing with dumb fast food workers most of the time. TLDR, don't be a dick to fast food employees. I worked a call center and a guy was screaming at me for something that wasn't my fault. In the middle of it, he screeched, "Did you even go to high school?" I said, "Yes, and I actually graduated college." The entire demeanor changed. He said, "Oh really? Where'd you go?" "Penn State." "Oh, they have a pretty good football team, huh?" "Yes, sir." It was bizarre. A lot of people assume I worked in the trades or have no education because I have a lot of tattoos. I have 4 degrees and work in learning and development. A lot of people assume I am a heavy drinker because I'm Eastern European. I have maybe 10 to 15 alcoholic beverages a year. A lot of people think I am 22-ish. I'm 30. I've had a few people tell me I'm quiet. I just didn't like them and avoided talking to them. A lot of people assume I got married soon after my divorce and gave custody of my daughter to my ex because I was cheating. Nope. I gave him custody because she asked to live with him, and he has the ability to provide for her much better than I could. I could have made the divorce super messy and petty and came out very well off. But I didn't want to put my daughter through that simply for money. I got married soon after my divorce because an amazing guy came into my life, and I decided being happy is more important than what other people assumed. When I was younger, people assumed that I'm quiet and calm, but actually, I was boiling inside every 5 minutes from stupid shit happening around me. I could be quiet, but not fucking calm. My very close friend always considers me the soul of the company. I'm introverted AF. I was acting at his wedding like I'm having the best fun of my life, while I suffered agony inside.